Do you guys remember on Tropic Thunder when Ben Stiller did the fake movie in the movie? I'm pretty sure this is one of those movies. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to the channel. This weekend, there's an epic movie about a strong protagonist, some of the coolest action sequences I've ever seen, and that's Furiosa. Today, we're talking about Atlas.
Good morning, Atlas. Time to wake up.
I'm awake.
In a bleak-sounding future, an AI soldier has determined that the only way to end war is to end humanity. This movie is rated... who cares? It doesn't matter. In this film, you have Oscar-nominated actors Sterling K. Brown, Simu Liu, who plays Shang-Chi, and of course, Jennifer Lopez, who gets most of the screen time because a lot of it's her and a robot, and it's directed by Brad Peyton, who did Rampage and San Andreas, and now Atlas, the sci-fi AI movie. It's about AI. Was it written by AI? Oh.
I don't know.
No, it wasn't. I don't want to sound too mean because sometimes you have talented writers and they have scripts, but it goes through so many phases and it gets changed and Jennifer Lopez comes in and it's like we have to make this about her. I don't know if that's the case. All I know is that while I was watching Atlas, like I said at the beginning, it felt like a fake movie. Did anyone see The Fall Guy? And they were making that like rip-off Dune. This feels like a rip-off all things sci-fi. Just everything crammed together, all of the ideas and the villainous monologues, and the robot befriending the human trying to figure out the robot trying to read the human, and then there's a little bit of Iron Giant in there. There's some really wannabe heartfelt moments. Mark Strong's in there too. I forgot to mention because they give Mark Strong, a freaking phenomenal actor, nothing to do.
Nothing.
And so it just feels like you're watching a vehicle. There's a pun because she's in the robot the whole time almost.
Oh my god, that was so funny!
It feels like you're watching a vehicle for Jennifer Lopez to showcase some emotions, establish this nice relationship with the robot, and admittedly, there are some touching moments towards the end, but it takes so much effort out of you to get there. And I mean, essentially, I'm trying to get through this movie, but some of the lines are just so cringe. Sort of. They're trying so hard they come across as cringe. And I don't like being this guy because I like the turn-off-your-brain sci-fi blockbusters sometimes. We've seen numerous examples, and some that are so big and the explosions are so massive, you're like, okay, I can forgive the lackluster dialogue and the mediocre script. But in here, you don't even really get the fun action scenes because she's just kind of stuck for a lot of the film, trying to figure out this robot, and they can both figure their way out, and that's like 45 minutes of the movie. So you get the build-up, establishing sort of who she is, and kind of why this world is in the shape that it is, and then you get some twists and turns along the way, and of course, there has to be some sort of relationship with the main villain, because why wouldn't there be in a movie like this? And so by the time you get there and you get that backstory, it's like, I saw that coming, and we really don't get anything about this villain. Just one little thing at the beginning until 3/4 of the way through the movie. Then he shows up, and it's supposed to be, we're building to this big epic showdown. Not really. It's more so that relationship between Jennifer Lopez and that robot where they're just kind of stuck for most of the movie. And at a point, I'm just like, can we move? Can we move the story forward just a little bit? And once we do, and once we get that action, it just feels so generic. Like there's nothing to this movie that isn't generic. And it has that look to it, like no style whatsoever, that smooth, glossy, VFX-heavy look. And when we get the action sequences at the end, they're almost all in slow motion, and there's no depth whatsoever. That's the problem here, because I think you have an interesting idea on paper, but we don't give any of these characters any time. And once we do get a tiny bit of that backstory, it happens so quick, and you're expecting an emotional payoff, and you kind of get an emotional payoff. But because I didn't really feel anything for this one character played by Jennifer Lopez, who is, I mean, she's just kind of doing what she does in this movie. It's not terrible, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's all that good.
Emotional damage!
And the writers, they're trying to nail down a point here. What happens if AI gets out of control and out of hand, and there's no more being able to establish a relationship with that robot anymore, and it's no longer just a robot. It's a bad AI villain that wants to destroy the world, destroy humanity, and then just the most generic reasons as to why he's doing what he's doing. Austin, sometimes a villain doesn't need reasons, sure, but the villain needs a personality. I mean, something to get us to at least somewhat care about his motivations, not even buy into him, even though those are the best villains. Care. In general, it's like if he goes and destroys this world, I don't care because I have no connection to this world. And when you get these big villainous monologues by Simu Liu, and nothing against him in this movie, but I mean, it's just sci-fi 101. He's saying everything that I've ever heard by a villain. There's one point where he's asking her questions and she keeps answering. He goes, and she's like, blah, 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 and because I blah, 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 and I'm just like, God. Look, this movie's on Netflix, and I'll be honest with you. Sometimes people who have Netflix don't go out and see all that many movies, which is fine. It's understandable. That's expensive, but this will be one of the few films they watch all year, and they may watch this, turn their brains off, and be like, ah, cool. But as someone who watches everything all the time, I have seen this, bits and pieces of this, in hundreds of other movies done significantly better, and there's nothing about this film that even remotely stands out. Even the idea, which had potential on paper, could have been turned into a fun blockbuster flick, and maybe it will be for some people. Turn your brain off, throw it on in the background, and you do get an emotional payoff, admittedly. There's that thing between her and the robot. I'm like, it's a sweet moment. One sweet moment in a 2-hour movie. So if you enjoyed this review and all of my positivity, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to drop a thumbs up, and my full spoiler podcast of Furiosa is on the Movie Mode YouTube and podcast channels now. Go check it out. Atlas fails to stand out or captivate, even with its emotional touch towards the end. The interesting concept quickly becomes generic and inevitably goes nowhere. There is my score, and those are my thoughts for Atlas. So, I need to know, what's your favorite Jennifer Lopez movie? What's your favorite AI sci-fi movie where they're trying to take over the world and do some stuff? Is it Terminator? Is it Edge of Tomorrow? Is it more... I guess Edge of Tomorrow's aliens. But he's in a suit. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, see you soon.